Start recording. Should I put some music on? Nah, probably not. Not for educational content. Okay. I'll be right back. And we'll get started.
The link.
Hmm?
The link.
The link?
Whatever, I'll get it from your YouTube.
Yeah.
That's
what I would do. Alright. We'll get started in 5 minutes. We'll do a little, if anybody wants to do a little Q&A beforehand, we can do that, and then we can at the hour we'll jump into the actual lecture stuff. Be right back. Actually, did you post already?
Bruh, you said it right as I hit enter.
Oh, shit. Okay, well, I wanted to change the name of the thing before we got into it, but what can we do?
What?
Like, the name of the stream is kind of messed up. Whatever, it's fine.
Just, whatever.
Yeah. YOLO. Okay, here we go. Let me just change it really quick, update it, and then we can get started.
I'm gonna be in the speakers.
Okay.
Or the listeners.
Okay. We're changing that up. I guess we'll give a minute for people to fill in. In the meantime, since we have a few people here, and we are streaming live to some people, it would be great if anybody has any questions or wants to do any Q&A before we kind of get started. We could vibe on that. Will old character JSON files work in the new system? That is a good question. As of right now, the character structure is basically the same. We only did one thing to change it, which was we consolidated lore into bio because it wasn't clear to people what the difference was. Otherwise, the structure is the same. With the projects that we have, you should be able to load a character, but I haven't tested it with the JSON. But when you create a project, it definitely creates a new project with a TypeScript file that has the character, and you could basically just paste your JSON in and it would work. You could also just load it in from your project if you wanted to. We also have a new thing where you can manage your agent entirely from the GUI, and something that we've talked about is making a little helper script for people And if there's a demand for this, I'll just make this to take your JSON and just like push it into the database. So we have both a CLI and a GUI. And from the CLI, if you can push, we have like agent management. So if you could say, hey, push my character into the database, oh, that'd be great. So that's probably something we'll be working on in the next couple of weeks. The beta period will be a few weeks long, probably 2. We're really looking for feedback on any bugs or issues, anything that is going to make migration easier. We're working on plugin migration. So if you have a V1 plugin, you'll be able to migrate really easily. It's really not too much change right now. It's pretty simple, but it would be nice to make that basically automatic. And I'll have a checklist of things that have changed, like a migration guide working on. How do I set up RAG? So if you create an agent with a character that has knowledge, it will load all of that knowledge in, and it will just work. You can also create a character, and then you can add knowledge later. And we now have it in the GUI, so I'm not sure if it's been merged in. And this is I should go to the GUI. But we do have it set up so that you can now upload and add knowledge directly in the GUI to your agent, which is very nice. So I can message my agent. I can go see their actions, logs, memories, and pretty soon we'll have knowledge here as well. Can I delete knowledge from an agent? Yes. In the GUI you can, it hasn't been merged yet, I think, but you will be able to add and remove knowledge. Is having a Python knowledge a necessity and really getting involved? No. If you want to develop custom plugins or projects, which is a new abstraction we have, then you will need to know TypeScript. But you can probably get pretty far just learning it on the internet and then using Cursor and AI tools to help you really get down to the details. I've been coding a very long time, but Claude is so much faster than me. It's like 500 words per minute, and it's really smart. And it doesn't run into the same kinds of stupid bugs I do. Sup, Brent? Any other questions? I think Python's cool. I would argue that all programming languages will probably be like AI programming languages in the future, because AI is just very disruptive and everybody's building everything onto all of them. And the difference between any language is like they're all copying each other's best ideas in certain ways. And if you learn one, you can apply a lot of those concepts to other languages. Even languages where like something like functional programming might not be overtly implemented, you might have like a library that enables it, for example. So if you learn concepts in one language, you can usually translate a lot of it to another language. And now with AI, you just like, you know, I'm kind of at the high level architecture. Like, this is what I want. This is how I want it to work. This is what I want to do and not do. Less like writing the actual for loop, for example. But I learned V1 or V2. Oh man, V2 is so much better to run. Like, mostly what we focused on was improving developer and user experience. There's some new stuff, technically, under the hood. But the vast majority of what's new is the way that you set up and run it, and like the experience just being far better. How do I migrate my character from V1 to V2? There's a few ways. We should make a migration tool. I think that we will just make a like drag and drop your JSON into the GUI and it'll add the character, and I'll make a note of that, so we get that. That would be hot. You could also just copy and paste the fields into the new project, or you could open the GUI, copy and paste the fields into the GUI, which is a little painful, but you know, probably not the worst thing for people. If you go here, you can actually now edit every character from the GUI. Every agent is running, and I can go and edit the content of Eliza. I can edit her style, plugins, change the different plugins that are running on the agent. It's pretty slick. All right, we got 5 minutes before we start. Can you make terminal bigger? Do V1 plugins need to migrate to V2? Yes, they do. But the migration is pretty painless. By the vast, like 99% it's the same. There's a few things that were renamed, and a few things that were consolidated. We had clients as separate from services. Now clients and services are just the same. We just have like this idea of a service. It's like a thing that runs. It's a little more technical, and we're overusing client as a word. There's a few things like calls to runtime now that are much easier, but if you're doing them like runtime.databaseadapter.whatever, now it's just runtime.whatever. Unified, the API is much simpler now. And a few things are added, a few things are changed a little bit. We've made direct clients native. So you noticed how I was, I'm over here doing this. The direct client was consolidated into the runtime, or into the CLI that runs everything. And so there's no longer like a plugin for direct client that you have to install, for example. The direct client is just like part of the infrastructure, because we realized like REST API was pretty important to doing this GUI at all, and we just wanted to ship with that. So we're just like, let's just make that a big first class part of it. This is live on YouTube, by the way, and it will be recorded. And we will trim off the beginning for a proper AI Agent Dev School video. I believe the plan is to go through and kind of just this, you know, YOLO hack through all of the stuff with these dev schools as quickly as possible over the next month. And then, and we have some team that's working on making a nicer, well-produced, ongoing video series that will cover all of the details in more specific technical language, and you know, like a more concise tutorial video that will be based on what is working and not working from these videos. So we're still in beta. I just needed to get people kind of downloaded, you know, share the knowledge. Which node version is recommended? I'd recommend 23 or higher, which is the default if you just install node. Let's go through our docs. We now have a new website at eliza.how, which has these beta docs, which are up to date with what we're about to show. Kinda. I updated the logo, but whatever. Fine. But here you can go through documentation. We cover all the core concepts. There's a few new ones. They're pretty much all like a lot of them are the same as it used to be. We added some new ones like entities, reflection, worlds, etc. We also talk about what's the CLI and how to use that. That's kind of how you start things up. And then we have some Jen made some really nice API documentation for the REST API. It's pretty sweet. So for the sake of this, we'll just go through the quick start, because this is kind of what we're looking at today. Yeah, Jenna did a great job with these docs. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of water, and then we're going to get started on part 1 of Dev School for 1.0. Is MCP tooling a thing? We are, it's work in progress. After we get a few things out of the way, we'll have that going in the next week or two. How would I integrate an Eliza agent or something like this? Give them a wallet and then have them try to defend their wallet. Cool. Okay, great. Let's get into it. Someone just said that they're in the middle of hacking on something for NCP right now, and we've got a lot of people in the team who are itching on it. Don't worry, it's very much going to happen. What are we going to see during this call? We are about to start. This is AI Agent Dev School. And is there a Docker setup? Yes, there is, but you might see that you don't even need it. So, okay, it is 5 o'clock. This is the beginning of AI Agent Dev School for the new version 1.0.0 beta. Just pretend that says beta. And we have been working nonstop very hard to ship what we call 1.0 or V2. I know it's confusing, but think of everything we did before as kind of the research project that tested the hypothesis and got us kind of the MVP loop that enabled people to do some things that were pretty interesting. But there were some really obvious pieces that were missing. And the entire experience of setting up, building, developing was just not satisfying to me, and I assume to a lot of other people. So we've really worked to completely change everything. And I think you'll find it very satisfying. So we're going to go through today the quick start guide for getting started from the perspective of a few different kinds of users. If you're just a user who wants to use this and you don't want to know any programming, you just want to have an agent you can talk to or put on your Twitter or Telegram or something, cool. We'll start there. If you have been working on a plugin and for the previous version and you want to update that to the new version, or you want to work with that, or like kind of understand how that works, okay, great. We'll do that too. If you want to build a project where you have custom code and you're like an advanced user and you want to, think of this like a whole application and you're kind of using Eliza as your development runtime for this application, got you covered. We have a new project abstraction. You can run a bunch of agents. You run like a whole swarm. It's a whole thing. And then lastly, if you want to be a contributor and you would like to come and fix something in the repo, add a feature, add something to ElizaOS itself and be part of that, oh, I would love if you came and contributed. We love contribution. We love development. We have a whole server dedicated to doing just this. And I will try to show you how to get started there as well. So those are the 4 things that we're covering today. This is going to be extremely shallow and kind of showing 4 different ways to approach the same problems. But I want you to just feel comfortable with using the new tools, using the CLI. We'll be doing these lectures twice a week for the next couple of months, with the goal of downloading all of the basic, intermediate, and advanced principles of programming these things and actually building useful agents. We'll be showing off some of our own useful agents that do some pretty interesting stuff and are open source, so you can use them as an example. And then we'll be using all of this as content to then go back and create a more professional lecture series that's not just me ranting on a live stream, but that feels more, built up with actual visuals and code examples and project and a nice like sort of pathway for the next generation of developers who want to build with this stuff to just have a clear path. I know that education has been something that that we've definitely struggled with in the past of just getting the information of all the new features out to people. So we'll be doing a more professional round of this. But for now, just imagine, we're here, we're in the beta, we've just finished shipping the stuff to have enough here to even show you what we're going to show you. There's still some bugs. We're working out the kinks. But it's really important to us to get this into everybody's hands as quickly as possible. So that's why we're here. That's what we're doing. So, getting started. Now, there is a problem here where we have not published the main version yet, and I will try to make sure this is resolved. But we do have to append @beta at the end of some things. So if I run @ElizaOS CLI, well, I might have to say, well, @ElizaOS CLI @beta. So if you're having some issues, or you get like a no plugin version found for something or something weird like that, you probably have to append the beta. So I'm going to show you a few different ways to get started, and we'll go through that. Okay, so let me just clear everything. The first and simplest way to start a project, before we start with projects, I'll just show you the CLI itself. The way we get to the CLI, you can install it if you'd like, but most people will run it from a tool like npx. npx ships with npm and Node.js and is part of it, and allows you to run executables directly from the Node package ecosystem. So, I have this package, ElizaOS/CLI, and if I type in npx before it, then I can actually run it directly without ever having to even download it. And then if I add @beta to it, then I know that I'm running the tag with the latest tag that we're running now, which is @beta. And it pulls up, and you'll see this is our CLI. I've got this fancy new art. You can see the version here, and you can see all of the commands that are available to us. And a few of these commands are particularly important. Start is, a nice one. Create, that's a pretty useful one. Dev is a pretty useful. Help, I think help is probably a good place to go. But they're all, they're all going to be useful for what you want to do. But those are the ones we're going to cover today, I think. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to type in start. So npx ElizaOS CLI beta start. If you're watching this in the future, you might not need the @beta. Now that's it. It started up, and you see it says go to the dashboard. Okay, go to the dashboard. And I load my dashboard, and well, I have a bunch of agents because I already had something running, so it's a little easier for me. But you can see I've got some agents. I have offline agents that aren't running, but I can start them up if I want to. I can spin them up and then go talk to them. Something that we're adding right now, and will be out by next week, is that you can put multiple agents into a room with each other, which I think is pretty cool. But for now, I can click on any agent that's online, and I can go talk to them, and I can say, hey, what's up? And that will go and do its thing. Now, you can see in the background, it's downloading a model. This is set up right now to work with local models. Out of the box, we have support for Anthropic, OpenAI, and local support. We can also do Ollama and a couple other local options. But we'll be adding support for all of the models that were in the previous version. We've just kind of like migrated them all out to plugins. That's a big new thing, except all model services are now in plugins. And you'll be able to choose anything you want, basically, as your model provider. But by default, if you have a computer that can, like a MacBook or something, you should be able to just clone this and run this and have no problems. Okay. But I don't want to wait for that. That's going to be very boring and slow. So what I'm going to do... It's interesting that it's running that when... I have the dot... Oh, I know why. I think. Just going to copy that there. See if that works. So the easiest way to get started is just to press the start button and start. Message my agent. Hey, what's up? Now, it seems to not be reading my environment variables. So if I wanted to change this, I can also go into my agent. And now I can edit my agent here in the GUI. And I can go to plugins. And I can configure, okay, well, I have Discord API token application ID, but I really need like an OpenAI API key. And that's probably something that, you know, actually, if you just give me a second, I could probably just go get that. And if I leak my key on accident, it's fine because it's just a dev key here. Cool. I add the key, and now I've got the OpenAI API key in there. I think we're running into one of our first beta issues. Yeah, I've got some sort of funky issue, but that's how you change the API keys. Let me get this back to the and configure everything. So, okay, so that's the first way I can start up, but you notice that there's no project there. There's no those agents you saw were already in my database. If you're starting from scratch, that's fine, because if you don't care about coding anything, modifying anything, you just want to like go create your own agents from the console here. Oh, you can do that all day. Let me just start it back up really quick. You can just go create a new agent. Say Shaw's awesome agent. Nah, how about Steve? Steve is a good name, and let's call him Steve. And we'll say always respond as the Stevest Steve in the universe. Right, whatever. Say the content. Steve is a super genius with good looks and a great attitude. And, you know, you can just go through. Steve likes quantum physics. You know, and he also likes biomedical engineering. And happy, jovial, manly. It's very manly. And whatever, we can just kind of save it and go create our Steve character. Start him up, and then we can go chat with him. There might be some issues. We'll have to... we'll see if he starts up. Point being, that's how you make it. So, I don't really want to wait for it, though. So we're just going to kind of clear here. Okay, so if you want to create a project, though, and you actually want to build like an application or an agent that can do unique things, you probably want to create a custom plugin or a custom project entirely. And we have a really nice command for that. npm create Eliza. But since this is the beta version, you do have to say npm create Eliza at beta. And so we do that. And now it asks us, do we want to create a project or a plugin? I think we should create a project first. My cool project. And it's going to ask you, do you want to use PG-Lite or Postgres? PG-Lite runs locally, and you can just set it up with no outside dependencies or anything. Postgres, you do need a URL to a Postgres instance database. If you're trying to do this, I'd recommend using Neon or Superbase. You can set them up for free. They give you a connection string. You plug it in. Just works. But we'll use PG-Lite. And now we can cd into our project, my cool project. and we can run npm run start. And now this is basically the exact same, but it's not the exact same. Let me open up the project. And this is what we've created. We've created a my cool project, and it has source data. You can see that your character is actually here. We'll get into that in a second. It's got a test plugin. It's got some tests, right? So we used to have a character file, character.json. We can still load those in, but we wanted to... This has some benefits. One, we can dynamically load plugins based on if we have the API keys. So we can make projects that the plugin loading is a bit more dynamic than if we just pass in JSON. We can't do this cool stuff. Two, we can apply secrets here by saying like this. See, this is how we do secrets. We can pass them through the runtime, but we could also then namespace them. So we could say like Eliza Discord token. And so to the agent, this is the secret, but we can have like unique namespaced environment variables if we wanted to have multiple agents with different secrets, or we could even just have these be, you know, get this from S3 or Amazon Secrets Manager or something like that, whatever we want. And three, the biggest thing is that if you make an error, if I do like, I don't know, that, well, you can see that it like shows up that there is an error. And we had a lot of JSON validation. A lot of people get stuck not being able to start their project because their JSON was invalid, like incorrectly formed. If you get the event emitter command, try running npm run start in the repo that you create when you create a project. And the initial npx command, just to reiterate, npx at ElizaOS/CLI at beta start, or at beta. Now, you're wondering, that's really ugly. It'd be great if you guys had just ElizaOS. And I agree with you. And we actually do have just ElizaOS as well. But it doesn't work on everyone's machine yet because we haven't published that final version. So you should use the other thing. But if you are watching this like a week after it's published, you can probably also just do npx ElizaOS start. And what's happening there is, in my machine, it's linked, so it just works. You can see it's pulling the right version. But on your machine, it might not be, so you might have to use the other command. So I'm in this cool project, but in the project, if you're having a weird event emitter issue, try running npm run start. I don't know what that... I think we solved that, but anyway. You can see it starts off the starter plugin, it starts up the starter service. We can see initializing starter plugin. Initializing starter plugin, there it is. Initializing starter service, that's what's going on there. And then the agent starts up, and then we can go and we can say, hey, what's up? And hopefully it receives the message and responds in a way that's not totally insane. Hey, Eliza, are you there? Hopefully. I'm concerned. Let me just get the .env in here. Let me try. So everything that when you store a database, it's stored to this .eliza, and this is where like everything lives. I'll show you guys a couple other things related to that. But if I start up the project, then it should kind of nuke everything. I guess it's using the it's probably using my Postgres database. That's why. Okay, well, we'll have to figure out why it's not responding. Anyway, we'll get back to that. Okay, so the first thing, we made a project. We started it up. We chatted with our agent. You saw it kind of locally run. Let me actually just remove the .env, and I want to kind of start it from scratch. Let's see if we can get that working. Nah. It's not showing our agents. Okay, well, we got some issues we gotta work out. Let me see if I do the other. No, weird. Okay. Well, for whatever reason, it's not showing us the agent when we started up. Let's copy the environment variable back in. Oh, I see. Let's go back to our list of agents. Okay, so I got some bugs to work on tonight, but you get the idea. We started it up, created a project. We can then edit our project. We can see that this code affects the project that we're in. This is all starter code, which is kind of an example. Oh, I know why. Because I'm dumb. I'm sorry. This is actually a really good note. I should probably remove. It has null, like models that just don't respond. I believe. That's not. Anyway, whatever. We'll abandon it. Okay, so npm create Eliza, right? Oh, it's actually working with the beta. Great. npm create Eliza, and then you can see we can choose to create a project plugin. So we'll create a plugin this time. So if you just want to create a plugin, and you can share that plugin on the registry and everything, then you would do the same process as the project, but it'd be slightly different. You would create this plugin, and then we can test it with a default character to make sure it works, and then we can publish it. So I'll say my cool plugin, and we'll cd into my cool plugin. And this has a pretty similar structure to the project. It's slightly different. See, we've got an index.ts. And this has an action. Actions can do anything, but we have this example greeting action. Just says hello world. Very, very boring action. Almost worse than just having the agent write a greeting, but you know, example. We have a provider, an example provider. We have a starter service, and we have all that wrapped up into this plugin, which then gets exported. And you can see we have some, the plugin can wrap all these different things. The plugin can have an initialization step. You can have a list of models that you provide if you want to make a model provider plugin. Probably, again, don't want that for this kind of plugin. Just remove. Okay, let's take a note of that. We can run tests. You can see that we can actually pack test suites in to our plugin and then have test suites run on the plugin to verify it works. We can have routes. So plugins can actually have custom backend routes. They can even serve entire web pages. We can have events. This is a new thing, but plugins can handle events like a message received event. So if you have like a message handler plugin, then you can make custom message handling, etc., etc. So this is the plugin structure. And if we, you can modify this plugin however you like. And if you like it, you can then say, okay, npx ElizaOS publish. And, no, I don't want to update. And then I can put in my username and access token, and it will publish my plugin to the repo, assuming that I am the maintainer of it. Now, I can publish my own version of the plugin, and then I can have as many of those as I want, and I can just install those from GitHub. But I can then point that to our registry so that you can publish your plugins directly to our registry. So if you haven't seen it, we have a registry. This is a terrible website to demonstrate it. This is a slightly better website. It's just right now it's pretty brutally simple, but it's just a list of plugins. If you're like, okay, I want the Farcaster plugin, you can see we have that. And then this registry will then be, so you can automatically publish to this registry, basically. So that was, again, with npx ElizaOS publish. So we got, if you're, just to kind of reiterate, let me just clear this. If you are a first-time user, you just want to make some agents and like jam with them, mess around, npx ElizaOS start. Cool, great. Create new agent, test agent, etc. If you are a hardcore developer and you want to build your own stuff, then you're going to go npx ElizaOS create or npm create Eliza. And that's going to, we probably want to say npx ElizaOS create. And we're going to say, and then I create a project. If you are a plugin developer, you do the same process. And then what if you want to be a contributor? What if you actually want to build Eliza with us or fork it and hack your own version? And that's what I'm going to get into kind of for the end of this. We're going to make this one pretty short. I think it's just kind of a getting started. We still have a lot to do, kind of a lot of little bugs and stuff to fix. So I don't want to get too much into the detail. And as you can see, I'm running into some issues on my local build right now. So I got to make sure that I'm kind of like synced with everything. So I don't want to get too in the weeds. I'll just kind of show you guys a bit of the code stuff. And then maybe we can go through a little bit of what's new, and then we'll wrap it up. We can keep this one pretty short. So, let's say you want to be a contributor, right? So, the process is the same as it was before. You go to our repo, and you can see that everything we're doing right now, by the way, is on this v2-develop branch. We will be merging this to main, obviously, in the future. But right now we're developing it here. And you can see it's quite far ahead. A lot has changed. We'll take that. And we'll clone it. And we will say Eliza v2, right? But that's going to take a really long time. You can see it's pretty slow. I don't really want to wait for that. So we're just going to go into our pre-baked one. And you're going to go git checkout v2, well, git fetch, just get the latest. This is actually not a good one. Let's test. Bad repo. Don't use that repo. And we'll say, okay, cool. Git fetch. That just pulls the latest from our remotes. Got some new stuff going on. Okay. Git checkout origin/v2-develop. Okay. And we used to use pnpm, but now we use bun. And if you're a Node developer, you're like, well, I just want to type npm install. Why can't that just work? And I wish it would, but it doesn't really do the workspace management well. So you have to type in bun install. And that will set up everything in the repo for you. Now, while it's installing, we have a lot of now. People might be a little confused. We moved all the plugins out of our repo. Why do we have these plugins here? Well, I wanted to have a really tight development loop and testing loop, and it was just like a lot more sensible to have that be the way we developed. But we'll be moving these out in the next couple of days, and so these won't be here. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical. Why is this here? That seems wrong. There we go. Okay. Whatever. I was on the wrong remote. So let's install. So you run button install. You install this. This is what I would expect to see. We have app. So we actually have an application now, which we'll be releasing as an executable. If I run bun run start app, that will load up. And so you'll just, if you're not a developer, it's kind of sucks we don't have this today. But you can just download all of this as an app and run it. You can see it just looks like a desktop app. And it's basically identical to the front end app. It's just a thing here. Pretty cool. So that will be available for download in the next couple weeks. Great. And if I go bun run, I can see all the different things I can run. And probably what I want to do is I want to run bun run start. And that kind of gets everything going. Cool. Great. Looks promising. I know that this is old. Gotta make sure I'm on the latest. There's too much log spam. Fun download. Anyway, so we got the app. We have AutoDoc. Don't worry about that. Auto documentation for our repo. The CLI, this is where everything lives now. When you start something up, you start the runtime. CLI is like what's running the runtime, loading your agents, running the testing, deploying the REST server. All that stuff happens in the CLI now. We actually copy the client. We build the client and then copy it into the CLI, and it's kind of pushed there. But the client is sort of our front end. That's what you see when you see that GUI. There we go. Now we can... Jeez. To develop. Okay, great. So the client is the front end you see, which we can display. Very strange. I'm just going to go back to my other one because it was working. So when I run bun run start, we will see that that's what this UI is. This is the actual client. Right? Core is where all of our core code for the runtime, like the agent runtime, lives. This is where everything is installing this core code, basically. This is very busy. And so, like, our actual runtime exists in here, this runtime. This is where pretty much everything lives in terms of the agent itself. Sorry, it's doing some knowledge syncing in the background. We have create Eliza, which just wraps the CLI to make that npm create Eliza. We have the docs, obviously. All these plugins are going to get moved out. They're just there. The project starter is the actual template for when you start a project. And there's also a plugin starter here. These are the templates that when I created that new project, that new plugin, this is where that comes from. And then lastly, this registry is actually probably not going to be there. That's just temp. But the org, this is our kind of flagship project. So this is actually a swarm of agents. There are 6 of them. Maybe I can pull it up. Let's see, do I have a channel? Let's see. Yeah, I have like you can see I've got some agents just kind of here. I've got Eddie, Eliza, Jimmy, Laura, Ruby. I've got Snoop. I don't know why. Snoop is just like my test guy. But I can chat with all of them here, and they can all do meaningful, useful stuff. This is kind of mostly my dev environment, but you know, I think I've got I don't know. I think I was yelling at all of them, trying to get them to shill a meme coin or something, and they wouldn't do it. But you can see that I have this like collection of agents, and the new thing that we're doing is that you'll be able to chat with the whole org here as a group. So we'll have multi-agent chat. That's almost done. As you can create rooms and bring all the agents into it. But the agents of the org are each useful. So like our Eddie guy here, he's community manager guy. Jimmy is our project manager. Laura's our social media. Spartan is our investment manager. Where they all have like a role in the thing, and they have different corresponding skills that go with that as well. Actually, I think Eddie's DevRel, so he's like he has all of the Eliza documentation loaded up, and then Ruby's the project manager. So anyway, so that's kind of like some of the agents we're launching with. And if you want an example of how to do stuff, you can look at that org project and kind of use that as a place to, you know, I would probably just copy and paste that if I was trying to build a swarm and then modify each of the agents the way that made me happy. So yeah, you make some changes, you commit it, make a PR, and you're in. You're a contributor. If I did make a change, for example, just to get kind of to the end of this, and I'd say, well, I like that analyze packages script. I'm gonna check out Shaw new scripts v2, and I will say, okay, well, I will commit some new package, some new scripts. And I can push that to this repo. And so I made some changes to some code I was working on. I just saved it. I pushed it. Now it's in GitHub somewhere, and I can go make a pull request back to the code base and be a contributor. I am a contributor. Look at me contributing. And I create a pull request, and someone can come along and review this PR, and that's kind of how we do it. Like, a lot of people will say, okay, I got an issue, and this is how I, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to close this. Cool. So that's kind of the overview. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll be deploying, trying to help people get set up, running into issues, identifying how to work around or solve that stuff. And then we'll have like a more, I don't know, meaty kind of getting into this on Thursday, and doing this next week as well. But I wanted to just kind of like show you guys the new CLI, the new GUI. And if there are any questions, maybe I'll take like a few questions from the Discord and YouTube audience. Can we run multiple agents simultaneously as TypeScript files? Yes, absolutely. That's actually what the org is. It's showing you how you can run 6 at a time. And while you can only load one project right now, we will probably have multi-project loading pretty soon as well. So, you know, there's some cool things we can do, basically. Can we add more to the org, please? Please copy, paste, or modify and improve. We wanted to make an open swarm that anyone could both get an example of and also improve. We have a kind of long-term plan for each of them. Also, frankly, I wanted an excuse to get the whole team behind actually building agents themselves, so that they could kind of have to, you know, just suffer the pain of the average user. How large of an update is V2 compared to V1? I would say it's very significant, but plugin migration should be pretty easy. Project is a way to have 6 agents. That's the way I would do it. You could also just manage and load the agents from the database purely, but it feels a little bit like right now, especially in development, I blow my database away a lot, and I just want to like have everything in code. Text embedding seems to be handled very differently. We've actually always had local embedding if you want that. It was baked into the runtime, which was really annoying. Now it's its own plugin. If you want to run OpenAI embeddings, you can. You can also do things like stack Anthropic and OpenAI, and then it will use Anthropic first. But since Anthropic doesn't have any embedding model, it'll use the OpenAI embedding models since they're like next up in the plugin queue. So as an example, like if I let's say plug in Anthropic, just kind of this is probably a useful bit of lore. Well, there's an agent. Okay, so I have like Eliza here, right? And so first loads the SQL plugin, which is new. We're rolling SQLite, all that stuff into a single SQL plugin. Plugin Anthropic is ahead of OpenAI, and that means it loads this plugin first, and it will use Anthropic, except that Anthropic doesn't do embeddings, so then it will default to the OpenAI embeddings, because it loads this as the model provider for everything it has models registered for. If I go into like Anthropic, the plugin, I have models. You can see it has an input for model type large, small, object large and small. There's probably a few others we could add here, like image recognition or whatever, but that's what it handles now. And then the OpenAI one can handle like embeddings and stuff. You could also use local embeddings with Anthropic, for example. Would be good to allow devs to pick a provider. Yeah, I think that the problem there is we just need some sort of prompt for what provider you want, and then you need to put your keys in. If you put an OpenAI API key into the .env, then it will default to that, and it will not use the local AI, because it's very slow on my machine as well. But it's nice that it runs all local out of the box, at least at first, so that there's not like a, can't call it a GPT wrapper. By using the org's crew of agents, can we bypass JSON character files altogether? Yes, with either a project which has a single agent, or you can just create the project and add more agents to that, which are like in an array. Like if I go look at my project, I made one, but test project .66, sure. If I look at my project code, and I have a character, you can see that my project is a list of agents. And my one agent takes that character, as well as a list of plugins, and has an init. And this is really nice because then you can have like custom initialization on each character. And so something we have is that when our characters start up in the org, they will reach out to the owner of a server they're in if they haven't been onboarded. And they will ask them for onboarding information, like, hey, let's get started. Can you give a high-level overview of the path information takes through the files when an agent is started and they are prompted? Yes. I guess we'll just get into it then. Before, it was all pretty hard-coded. Like, we have a runtime. The runtime takes a lot of state. That would be like, okay, well, it should get your name and your recent messages and knowledge, and probably need this and that and that. And that's cool, but it wasn't like very dynamic. And it meant you had to pay the same cost every time. And so now what we have is a new dynamic runtime provider system. God. Where we have a whole bunch of providers. Time. Should it respond? Settings, roles, relationships, recent messages, provider that shows you what providers you have, knowledge, facts, the facts you know about the agent or about the other user or whatever, list of entities in the room, any current choices that the agent has to make or that are pending. What capabilities does it actually have? What does it actually know, like how to read a PDF? Well, if you have PDF plugin installed, then yes, it knows how to do that. We gave it some anxiety because why not? And so each of these, some of these are always going to get loaded in, and some of them are dynamic. And now something we added to providers is that they can have like a dynamic value, right? And so when your agent responds, it can choose which providers to pull the data in from, and then it passes that enriched data down to the rest of the run. And so you can add more providers as you go. Like, basically, when you respond, your agent responds, it can also choose more providers to pull in. And so the response now is handled in this way of like, your agent decides, should I respond? Okay, cool. What should I respond? What information do I need to know to how to respond? Okay, I get that. And then what should I do? And so before, Eliza would call one action. I wish I had some great graphics for this. Eliza would call one action, like reply or do thing. Now Eliza calls a series of actions. So that could be like, okay, cool, you want me to go look this thing up on a website, then you want me to write a brief article for you, and then you want me to reply with it to you. Sure. And it will make like a nice little array of actions and call them one by one. You could even say, hey, give me 3 different replies, each with a poem that builds on the last, or something like that. And it would just be fine with that, right? So it can like be like, cool, reply, reply, reply would be the actions. So dynamic context providing and multi-action decision making are 2 big changes. Now it's a little bit slower because we have to pay for one of the API calls, because now we're doing 2 decision steps, but we're optimizing that a lot, and it should get cheaper and faster. And it's significantly smarter. For just a chatbot, it's kind of a waste, but for doing, anything useful, it's pretty powerful. Any other questions? Let's go look at the... Yeah, there's some things like there was a 5-minute timeout on the Llama download. I got that too. We fixed that. It's an hour long in the next version that we'll push. I think the agent would be a lot cooler if it was called LeBron James. I agree with you. Maybe like JAIMES. James. Are you actually giving the agent anxiety? Yes. The problem is that out of the box, the models are too nice and friendly, and they are too responsive. And if you're putting an agent in a room with 100 people, it's really fucking annoying if it responds to every single thing every person says. So what we've done is we've given them a should respond handler. Should I respond to this? Should I respond to this? The problem is that the models are like, yeah, I should totally respond to that. That thing, of course, I know about that thing. And it's like, no, you need to have some social anxiety. You need to chill and worry about what people think about you. So that's what that is. It's an attempt to kind of balance out some of the internal issues with the models being a little too friendly. Which would you say the main differences between new version and previous one from dev perspective? The API is way simpler. Way simpler. Everything is on runtime. You say runtime dot get embedding, runtime dot create memory, runtime dot create task. Pretty much everything is runtime dot whatever you want. And you can look and you can say, well, what is on the runtime actually? And there's an interface called iAgent runtime. And now iAgent runtime used to have a database adapter in it. It'd be like database adapter. Now it extends database adapter. And actually the agent runtime is also, so we've consolidated all of this so that the runtime eats the database adapter and then just gives you all the things. And so you can get knowledge and add knowledge on the runtime now, which probably is very nice for the RAG stuff. You can get services. You can register services. We used to call clients, like we used to have Discord client, Telegram client. Now it's Discord service, Telegram service. Just because we also had other services, and it didn't make sense to have clients and services, which were like basically the exact same thing. So now it's all just services. It also makes it so we don't have things like client.client.client, which was in the code places. It was a little bad. You can set and get settings out of the runtime. Pretty much everything is here. And we just like a new thing is that we've added tasks. Agent swarms work by, well, the agents are not, like, they're pretty good at talking to each other when necessary. Let's see, got a bunch of questions. Can you elaborate on how to get it to provide a response? Yeah, I don't know. Mine's not responding either. let me look at that after this call and fix it. But it should. I mean, it was working all day, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on. We should. How will the agent swarms work in practice? You invite the ones you like into your channels and kind of put them in there where they make sense. I don't think that swarms of agents doing all your job. It's like let's just start with one. Like, just give me a community and get one agent in there and get people using it every day. Let's just start there. What is something useful that people would do? And so we're really focused on obviously we like the autonomous investor treasury management Spartan stuff, so we're working on that. And we're working on community manager stuff and like a project manager that can check in with everybody every day on the team and write up a report, and a few other like kind of flagship ideas like this. So they can all work together, work independently, but they should be seen as like individuals who perform a job. Yeah, they don't have to be linked in any meaningful way. I don't think that, I mean, like, how are we linked? You know, we're in the same server. How am I linked with anyone on the team? It's like, well, there's some, you know, if I stop coming, then I don't get money. So, you know, but this ability, I think, to sort of abstractly build relationships. This is something we're working on too, is this idea of what we call the Rolodex. But like, how do I know that the Astrid on Twitter is the Astrid on Discord, for example? Well, that is a challenging problem that takes quite a lot of inference. So that's kind of the thing that we're working on there. Yeah, so it depends on responsibility types and jobs they perform. And I think that, like, I'll give you an example. It would be awkward for me to give any of you my Twitter. But if I had, like, an AI Shaw in there that said, well, AI Shaw has my Twitter, and if you come up with anything good to tweet, he will tweet it. Well, then I would feel a lot more... I'd feel safer about letting you tweet weird stuff from my account if I had an AI agent with, like, some style guide, making sure that nothing, like, you know, don't show meme coins. And I didn't have to give you any credentials. And, like, in the times that I've been hacked on Twitter, it's because I signed into some fucking website. And so if I didn't have to sign in or give anybody any credentials or anything, then I could basically share my social media with my community by just having this AI that has access to it that runs locally. But that other people could be like, hey, can you post this? And it's just a better experience than, like, asking me to post everything that they want me to post, you know. How to give them alpha personality, manage business. Obviously, we're getting there. I mean, that's your job. But managing a business is the future. I actually think that, like, AI is probably better at the middle. Like, not leading the ship and not doing the, like, hard tasks, but, like, middle management. I really think we should be getting rid of the middle managers before everyone else. Okay. How will agent swarms work? I mean, they do. We have it. You can just, if you get everything running, you can run the org and put all the keys, and you can have 6 agents talking to each other. Will the functionality of X, Discord, or other networks be native? No, they're all in plugins. Each one is plugin oriented. You could fork the plugin and customize it. And also, we've moved a lot of the, like, prompting and message handling and stuff out of and consolidated it into core, so it's kind of not like a Discord or Telegram or Slack or whatever. They should actually have a lot less code in them now, like quite a lot less, because all of the actual prompt stuff is handled internally and centralized. In theory, you should be able to send messages from one place to another too. It still needs a little bit of work and testing, but if you're like, hey, go post on that Telegram over there, it should be able to. This idea of agent memories persisting between clients, kind of, but this is like the thing we're working on a lot. This is the Rolodex idea. How do I know that you on Telegram is you on Discord? And so it's a combination of dynamic providers and this idea of like creating entities and then relating the entities together. That's pretty advanced stuff, though. We have a new thing called entities and components. We used to call entities accounts. Now they're called entities. We want entities to be general. Is the idea of plugins to Eliza allowing agents to perform tasks? Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. I think we're also looking into MCP and just general like can the agent create its own solutions to problems? But right now plugins do things like, oh, I want an EVM wallet, I want a Solana wallet, I want Telegram access, and that stuff really does need to come through like a plugin interface. It's just too hard for the agent to write its own code for that without quite a lot of hand-holding. But when our code has been trained into the next generation of models, which will happen because it's open source, then it will probably just be able to write its own plugins from scratch. Yeah, we'll have MCP in the next like 2 weeks. If anybody, I mean, multiple people are working on it already. Yikes, said he was working on it. Okay, doke. Did we do it? I got bugs to fix. We got, we're going to kind of be rolling this out over the next couple of weeks. We'll probably go over some of this stuff again, just like with the getting started with the CLI on Thursday. And we'll do a little development project. Make a little plugin, make a little agent. OpenAI Response API and Agent SDK support. Oh yeah, we should totally support that. It's on the list. If you want to make a PR, should be totally doable. Trading bot, you could also add a tax bot alongside to manage taxes. Freaking honestly, a tax bot would be a genius idea. That's a really good idea. Everyone is going to jail for their taxes this year because of the meme coins. Okay, to be clear, yes, we're calling it V2, but in the code it is 1.0. Because before, we were on V1 and it was 0.0. So, I don't know. We're zero indexing. It's 1.0. V2. Is there a GitHub username bug? Yeah, we gotta fix that. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I will catch you on Thursday.